Sports Illustrated there on Long Island, in my neck of the woods, about 20 minutes from where I grew up in Bethpage. Bethpage Black is where the Ryder Cup will be taking place this weekend. Bob, how's it going, man? How are things?
Going well, thanks, Jay. Appreciate you having me on. Big week in the golf world. Kind of slipping this one big last event of the year in amid all the big football talk, which it's the only way golf's going to get any attention probably is a Ryder Cup this week.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And first, we'll start off with like Keegan Bradley. I mean, the people are wondering, is he going to take himself? And he doesn't. I mean, we know the kind of guy he is, and it was really cool to be able to see kind of a peek behind the curtain a little bit with him, with the Netflix documentaries and everything. But were you surprised? Were you taken aback that he didn't select himself, being that he seems like he's been playing some pretty good golf the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised given the way he's addressed the issue.
Right.
But I think there was a sense that it wouldn't have been a big deal if he would have. I mean, I think this isn't an offensive coordinator changing plays on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of what's going on is decided. Like, they're not announcing the pairings until tomorrow, but they know who's playing Friday morning.
Right.
They probably know who's playing Friday afternoon. These guys are professional golfers who are used to doing it with themselves and a caddy. I don't really think they need a captain holding their hand. But I think he was concerned about his own ability to focus in on the playing aspect. And, if he had a tough week on the course as a player, that was going to only compound any issues that he would face as a captain. And so the sad thing is you only get so many cracks at this as a player. He's 39 years old. I mean, like, he's only played two. It's been a while, 2014. Right. So it's like everybody has said, if he wasn't the captain, he wasn't part of this, and he did the exact same thing on the course, he'd be on this team. So, and I asked him the other day, I said, look, I know you came to terms with all this, but was there any pangs, any just a hint of remorse or a tinge of wanting to be out there? And he said, absolutely. I'm out there on the tee with these guys, and I'm thinking about where I'd be hitting the ball. He goes, I also have recognized that there are certain things that would have been very hard for me to do properly if I were playing.
Man, I love that transparency. You don't always get that, man. You might get the company line, right? So we've seen some of these guys play together, and you mentioned that the pairings will be announced tomorrow. But from your guesstimation, man, who do you think we could see paired up tomorrow, or at least the rest of the week here for the team on the U.S. side?
The two formats make for a different, a different dynamic. Foursomes, which is alternate shot, is awkward. These guys do not do this unless they play the New Orleans tournament, the Zurich. Just not playing foursomes in professional golf.
Right. And
so it takes some thinking it through and working on it. If you go by the practice rounds, if you go by some of the pairings or the practice rounds in Napa a couple of weeks ago, even last year's President's Cup, which has the same format, I got to believe Scotty Scheffler is playing with Russell Henley.
Mm-hmm.
I got to believe they're, in that first session on Friday morning, you can't leave the number one player in the world out. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty obvious one. I think Colin Morikawa, I think Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay, they've played together 9 times in foursomes over 5 cups, President's Cup, Ryder Cup. They've not had great years, but I'm not sure you can substitute that familiarity in a tough format. So you probably figure they're out there. Do you sit Bryson DeChambeau, one of the most popular players in golf, just because you're not sure who to pair him with? I think he's going to play. My guess, he might play with Ben Griffin.
Okay.
So then who do you leave out? All right. I look at somebody like Justin Thomas, who's probably one of their best players. You probably got to find a way to get him in there. And he's been in the practice rounds with Cam Young. So
Okay.
it might be those guys. And then, obviously there's 4 guys who sit out. My sense is they try to find a way to work them in the afternoon, which is 4 ball, which is best ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit of an easier format in that you just get to play your own ball. If you mess up and your partner can bail you out. If I'm making a 10 somewhere, my partner makes a 3, the 3 goes on the scorecard.
Right.
So, and I'm guessing we're going to see Scheffler play in the afternoon as well. And no question, Bryson will play in 4 ball. You want guys who make birdies. Colin Morikawa, if he's not playing in the morning, which, I left him out, he still could play in the morning. He'll definitely play in the afternoon. So, the interesting thing is the European side is 11 of their 12 players back. And 2 years ago, they started the same way, foursomes. They wiped it out, 4-0. Did they bring back those same 4 teams Friday morning? It was Rory and Fleetwood, and I think it was Hatton and Rahm and Ludwig, and he played with Victor Hovland, and I think it was Shane Lowry and Sepp Straka. They keep that together. You go away from a good thing. That'll be to me is going to be just as interesting, because Luke Donald, their captain, might mix that up a little bit.
Yeah, it's and as much as we think like, oh, a guy's playing well on the tour or not playing well on the tour, this is a totally different ball of wax, isn't it, Bob? Like you could think like a guy's he really didn't play that well, but there's just something about this competition that it brings something different out of these golfers, doesn't it?
No question. Sometimes they get inspired. The crowd is going to be amazing. It's going to be a very, very partisan U.S. crowd, unlike what we see at golf typically. It's, frankly, it's going to be like a football game. It's going to have that kind of vibe, that kind of noise, cheering and booing. Typically there's not booing in golf. We don't see people boo a bad shot, but they will here. Or they'll cheer. Actually, you don't see them cheer a bad shot. Right. See that here. When if a European player hits one in the rough or in the bunker, there'll be massive cheers. So that you wouldn't see that at the Masters.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned football before with the Giants and the Jets both 0-3. I know my dad's like, yeah, I'm going to be watching Ryder Cup this weekend.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, one of the big stories is Bryson and Rory, right? I mean, everything that happened at the Masters and Bryson, and how they kind of handled the back and forth. And I mean, this is a big storyline going into the weekend, right? If we see these guys together, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some chirping going on, right? How's that dynamic going to look like, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's quite possible. I mean, it takes a little bit of luck for them to be, in the same grouping. Because the draw is blind. Each captain is going to put out his pairings and his order, not knowing what the other guy's doing.
Right.
So they might try to guess, but it could happen that like if Roy's playing with Fleetwood in the 3rd match out on Friday morning, Bryson could be in the 3rd match. It's possible, and then that would add an interesting little dynamic to the whole thing. It'd be especially amazing if they were together in singles on Sunday, and the singles were, the match is competitive in the Sunday. That's the one thing. The last 5 Ryder Cups have been won by the home team in virtual blowouts. Not quite that, but on the scoreboard, they've been won by a minimum of 5 points. I always tell everybody 5 points is really only a difference of 2 or 3 matches.
Right.
Because you're not adding on points. If I'm adding, then if I'm adding here, then we're subtracting there.
Right.
So all it takes to change those 5-point differences is for 2 matches to go completely the other way, and then it's only a 1-point difference. So if it would be nice if we went into Sunday, no matter who you're rooting for, I think it would be nice if it were like 9-7 or 8-8. Or 8.5 to 7.5, something close, because the last few years it's been, even a 3-point difference is pretty big going into Sunday. And so, if that were the case, and then you have a Bryson Rory singles match. Imagine the attention on that.
Unbelievable. In the middle of football Sunday,
Right.
Bryson and Rory going head to head. What's one of those storylines, Bob, that a lot of people are kind of missing? That's why I love asking you, man. You always come at it from a different perspective. Who's the golfer? What's the storyline that's not getting enough attention going into this weekend?
Yeah, look, I think certainly on the U.S. side, I'm very, very intrigued by J.J. Spaun. He won the U.S. Open. But J.J. Spaun has never played in the Ryder Cup. He's never played in the President's Cup. 18 months ago, he looked like he might lose his PGA Tour card. He had a rally last year to get his card for this year, and then he kind of went on a run. He lost to Rory in a playoff at the Players' Championship. He had a couple of other high finishes. He won the U.S. Open. It makes the Ryder Cup team in points. And yet he's never done this. Well, he's going to have to play some. How's he going to do? How's he going to handle it? How do they partner him? Who does he play with? It's unusual to have the U.S. Open champion sort of not be that talked about.
Right.
Although I'll say 2 years ago, Wyndham Clark was in a little bit of the same situation. He had not done much in these team competitions, and yet Wyndham Clark had won on tour. He was a little bit more accomplished than J.J. Spaun. So I'm very curious. I mean, the Ryder Cup sometimes is about these no-name guys stepping up. I'm not saying he's a no-name, but the guys you're not expecting to be a hero. And so, that's happened throughout, especially on the European side. The U.S. could use a couple guys like that.
Is Bryson kind of that, the wild card, kind of the X factor of who he plays with and what kind of impact? Because it feels like if he plays Bryson ball and he can, I don't want to say dominate, but he could be one of the better players out there. And I just feel like a lot of eyes are going to be on him and like I said, Rory. But man, it's going to be a big question who he's going to play with and how he's going to fare, right?
Yeah, especially if the foursomes format. Look, Bryson's not done this a lot either because of LIV. He's not been in a Ryder Cup since 2021. In that year, he was good. His partner was Scotty Scheffler, who nobody knew about at the time.
Wow! And
twice, and they what they do? I believe they won one and tied one in 2021. But they played four ball. They didn't play foursomes. Bryson hasn't played foursomes since 2018. Wow. 7 years ago. He lost them both. One of his partners was Tiger, and the other partner was Phil.
Jesus.
It's a long time ago, and it's hard to it's like you almost have to throw it out.
Right. No chance he plays with Scotty, huh, Bob?
I doubt it. I think Scotty's going to play with Russell Henley.
Okay.
They played together at the President's Cup last year.
Right.
That's, again, another comfort thing. You got to get comfortable. I think a guy like Scotty helps carry along a guy like Henley, who's maybe not as comfortable. Bryson needs to be a guy who does that too, and that's why I think his partner might be Ben Griffin, because Griffin's never played in one of these either. Never played in the President's Cup.
It's like an alpha, right, and kind of like a senior-junior kind of relationship.
If anybody has studied the old Ryder Cups, when Seve played back in the day, Tony Jacklin, the European captain, he'd put him with a young, green player, and just let Seve mentor him and pull him along and give him confidence. And I think there's something to be said for that. It helps bring out the best in a guy who might not be that comfortable, especially when you have a partner who can really help you out.
All right, Bob, before I let you go, how do you think it all plays out this weekend, man? Like you said, 5 in a row, the home team wins it. Did the U.S. make it 6?
I think so, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not that confident. I mean, I'm going to pick them, but I'm not confident about it because I think the European team is really good. They're very confident. They're very, very, very keen on kind of upsetting that trend. Rory said one of the hardest things in golf, in sports nowadays, is to win a Ryder Cup on the road. The U.S. has not won a Ryder Cup on the road in more than 30 years. Wow. 1993. In that time, Europe has won 3 on the road, the last in 2012. Rory and Justin Rose, who are on this team, were on that team. So, they know a little bit about what it takes. Chicago, New York, big crowds, you're up against it. So like, I don't think this is going to be a blowout, but I do think the U.S. is going to find a way.
Do they miss Spieth? Sorry, I wanted to get that in. Do they miss Spieth? I know, obviously it hasn't been the same. You and I have talked about kind of his fall a little bit, but I just feel like that Spieth Thomas, they always seem to kind of play their best during Cup competitions like this.
I mean, that's true. I mean, that was a good team for the U.S.
Right.
But Spieth, unfortunately, Spieth wasn't very good at the Ryder Cup 2 years ago.
Right.
And he's just not quite back to where he was. He was coming off an injury in 2024. He took him a little while to get going this year. It's too bad because he's so popular. Like, the more popular players that you have, the better it is for the U.S.
Right.
The more guys to rally behind.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Make sure you go get his book. I've got them both. Drive the Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods. Tiger and Phil, golf's most fascinating rivalry. And I see it here on Amazon too, brother. Tiger versus Jack. You and I have been talking about this for the last couple of years. Golf, great debate. That's coming out, next year, 2026, Bob?
Yeah, next spring. Yeah, God help me. We'll get it done here soon.
Bob Harig, the best. You're the man, Bob. Thank you so much. Enjoy the golf this weekend, buddy.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate having me.